And so here we are, creating this show. An effort to create content, become Magic City. Well, the idea is like, what kind of mindset? Well, for this podcast, right? When I look at those Magic City strippers, I see like elite showmanship.
Yeah. Hands down.
Wow. You know what entertainment is, and you are serving it to us.
Yes.
You deserve
yes.
every dollar bill thrown into the air. And so I look at that and I want to emulate that. How do I become an elite performer? By taking the road to become a Magic City stripper. That maybe I'll learn something else on the journey. That maybe it's not becoming a stripper, but what is the mindset needed to become an elite performer?
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Amanda Cordner, Amanda, 5 and 6, Toronto local. We have our first guest.
Bilal Baig.
I forgot her name.
Yeah.
Our first guest. I don't know who she is. Shyly. Our first guest, Bilal Baig. Bilal Baig is a writer and actor for stage and screen, as well as a workshop developer and facilitator for art-focused nonprofits. Baig's first play, Acha Bacha, had its world premiere in Toronto in 2018. Subsequently published in 2020 and nominated for the Dane Ogilvy Prize from the Writers' Trust of Canada in 2022. Baig was co-creator, executive producer, and lead in their Peabody award-winning series, Sort of. Baig received the Canadian Screen Award for comedy writing and performance, as well as a Gotham Award nomination for performance in a new series. Baig facilitates creative writing programs for trans youth, being me, and trans women of color, Dialogue Dolls, through artistic organizations such as Story Planet and Nightwood Theatre. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You are looking divine. I love your little top.
Oh, thanks.
Crops. It's a crop day.
Yeah, crops, crops for us, crops for all.
Crops for all. Crops for us, crops for all.
That's one thing that bonds us.
That bonds us, our little top love. You're on our first episode, our inaugural episode of this. All roads lead to Magic City. The OG. Well, I mean, yeah, someone who can corroborate my story.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Like they were swinging in the air.
They were totally swinging.
We were like,
yeah.
I was screaming and clapping.
Yep.
And then a bunch of dancers came up to us to shake our hands. We were just sitting there front row.
Yes.
I couldn't believe the money
Yeah.
being tossed.
Yeah.
I thought it was fake. And I want a piece. And then remember the next day, I couldn't stop talking about it. I went to the makeup call because we had a panel. I couldn't stop talking to the makeup artist. We had our media call. And I did a talk with Atlanta Tourism or Georgia Tourism, their magazine. I'm like, oh, can you talk about your experience of Atlanta? I was like, yes. Have you been to Magic City? And they're like, what's that? They thought it was a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, the women swinging from the air. And the producer's like, it's a strip club? Cut that. We can't talk about that. We can't. And I remember the camera person being like, well, it's in Atlanta. Like, it's part of tourism. And the way I was talking about, I was like, it's amazing. And there were chicken wings there.
Right.
So we're taking this bus all the way back. Do you want to come?
Yeah. I mean, I will support you in every single thing you do,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Here for you.
You're here for me?
This feels like you're in your next era as an artist, like it's like your next chapter. And I think this thing that's been so present in your work from what I've seen over these last couple of years is that a kind of trickery, provocation, like you like to push things, and this is pushing things.
Exactly.
So it feels right and makes sense for you,
I feel so seen.
Yeah.
And I also want to bring you here to talk to you about like because you had to step into that role, creator, lead. And I remember, like, when our friendship was budding, both of us had plays in the Riser project, associated with Why Not Theatre in Toronto, where they like give platform to new artists, and they like take care of everything. So you just put on a show and they take care of logistics, production.
Yep.
And so we got really close on that. And I remember sitting with you after the festival was done, and you were like, I'm ready to take a back seat. I'm gonna engage in my community arts work. And then I think it was like June 2019. And then by November 2019, you were like, hey, putting this pilot together.
Yeah.
You know, can you speak to that? Like what you had to do, like the mental gymnastics to step into that role, and how it's affected you from then until now.
I really appreciate this question, because I don't think we're talking enough about how a show like that even got made in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, and the obvious kind of swinging back towards super conservative stuff that is happening in our industry, like across the board. Like we can't not see that. Like
For real.
things that worked in the early 2000s coming back as
Exactly.
musicals or movie musicals or
like,
Marvel, this
a
and
black person.
you know.
Yeah.
I think that for me, I remember being so terrified of the possibility that the show could become a real thing, for sure. Like that was not lost on me. It was because my dream in this world was not to become a TV star and be at the center of something and have that much visibility on me. Like I know, and trans women of color talk about this all the time. It is not cute necessarily to be hyper visible in a very transphobic and violent world. There's so many parts of this. Like there was a part of me that was into the fear, like turned on by the fear. Like, can I do something that feels impossible as an artist? Like, can I do something that scares the shit out of me? Like what might happen?
Yeah.
And then also having like, I cut my teeth on really scrappy theater for a number of years. And I think people maybe don't really know that either. And I was stepping into director roles, like that project at Riser, I was a co-director on and a co-creator. And the community work was facilitating and developing programming, thinking about meeting people's needs. Like my whole life had kind of become about that. And then when you think about show running and co-creating and executive producing, a lot of the things kind of transfer over, like to the nth degree, you know, like to the huge shift was budget. Like everything matters more when there's so much more money involved, and then you're scrutinized more, and like, you know, the stakes just get lifted.
Yes.
But when I look back at it, I was 25 when sort of was... I was 25 on the first day of filming. I'll say that, you know? I think having those experiences helped me do my job. And if I didn't have those experiences, or if I was younger, I say this all the time, if it happened to me when I was 21 or 19 or 23... Yeah. I'd be Lindsay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is a very excruciating thing to do with all those jobs. So I'm kind of grateful that I got to live a little before welcoming something like that in my life. Yeah.
And you handled it, from what I observed over those 3 years, you handled it with such grace. I know you had to put up with a lot of colorful personalities, mediating emotions, and meanwhile you were so kind to everybody. And I mean, you held space for me every time I came to you. So whatever. And yeah, that even though, I don't know, it may have been crushing you inside, you definitely presented a sense of grace and strength.
Right.
Which is not easy.
Yeah, it's a real choice to be compassionate and nice in our industry too, you know? And I wanted to make that choice. That's how I kind of moved through my theater stuff too, like non-asshole-ly.
That's right.
And the thing about doing a good job, I connect that to immigrant parents, brown parents. Like, I have a pretty complicated relationship with them, but when I was growing up, I saw that you put in if you're getting paid, you put in the work and you get it done, and you don't complain that much, and you keep going.
Yes.
And I think that's in me, and I need to kind of look at that, because I don't think that's always the right answer. I think sometimes you sacrifice yourself if you're for the job,
Yeah.
you know? It's like the combination of all those things, you know, like having that kind of discipline ingrained in me related to work through my parents also meant that I couldn't fail. Like I didn't want to, and I couldn't, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the other kind of twisted thing is the pressure of being brown and trans and co-creating a thing and leading the story. Like if I failed, all the trans girls are chopped. Like they will not get a chance if the one opportunity that is given and you screw it up, like it gives us all a bad rep, basically, which is so problematic.
For sure.
And white dudes get to screw up over and over and over, and then more white dudes get jobs, you know, but it's not the same for us.
What's your internal narrative? Like, how do you stay inspired and keep going? And
I want to be really intentional with my body and my presence as an artist. And I know for sure that the roles aren't out there for trans femmes, women of color, for sure. We're trying to make it make sense for me and my body. And so far the auditions that I have done, I've been like pretty energized by them.
Great.
But that number is so small in comparison, you know, to other people. And I think that makes me feel sad, because it's like, if you want to work with integrity, that means that you don't work.
Yeah, for sure.
If you look the way I do, I'll speak from my own experience. It's like you don't work. I've said no like a million times in the year and a half that I've worked with her, and like a few yeses to try things that don't end up panning out, because I think systemically we're not where I think we should be as a culture and a world and a society in terms of media and representation. Like, I think that there's still a lot of fear around trans artists and trans stories, racialized artists and racialized stories, like the sellability, the marketability of these things.
Yes.
It's still a big question for the higher ups, like that. I mean, I don't know them, but I think what I imagine is that they're like, okay, this artist might be interesting, but will they make us money? Like, will they bring in these like millions and millions of dollars, you know?
Yeah.
And if you
commercial revenue.
Yeah. And if you don't do that, if you don't like offer that through your image or what you look like, then it's kind of not happening for you, you know? And that's the real tragedy. It's like, we're not, this business, it shouldn't be so much about what we look like. And it is like
everything.
This
it is
business,
such a big part.
Totally.
Yeah.
And for an industry that should be about truth and what feels real and human, it's so not.
Even from my own experience watching media, the white body is the universal experience, that I'm supposed to look at this character and be like, they're the every person. What you're going through is exactly what my life is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to connect with these characters. That's by default.
Yeah.
However, you know, any black leads or black shows, if they're not perpetuating a stereotype, they're not sellable, marketable, right? If they're, you know, there can't be like a small town black person. It's like from the hood. Or, which stories are valid for sure.
Yes.
But that's not the only thing that we are.
Totally.
Yeah. And I remember you talking about when auditions come through, and I remember this one that we worked on together.
Yeah.
you were like, I'm concerned about the way they make this person look. Like
Yes.
Production wants a trans person of color, but the character was kind of dumb, as you described, right? And you're like, that is hard for me to portray because there's so few roles that if you're out here portraying some like, I don't know, I know about fallibility.
Yeah.
We are not afforded to be like fallible humans at this point.
Yeah, totally.
It's like perfection or nothing.
Yes. Excellence or nothing.
Excellence or nothing,
You know?
yeah.
That is so extreme. That is such an extreme to like live through, you know?
I feel it.
I guess because you also kind of talk about like, knowing that this business that we're in comes with all these edges and
For real.
and barriers and still we're here and kind of doing it, moving through it. If I didn't have a writer voice in me, I would not be I would run so far from this.
Yeah.
You know, it's a nightmare if you don't if you aren't connected to your like inner storyteller.
Yeah.
And that writing was my first love. Acting is the scariest, hardest thing. I never kind of wanted to do it. I only went to theater school because I got rejected from a creative writing program.
Damn.
You
I
know?
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I applied to National Theater School's playwriting program only. They have an acting stream too. Got rejected from the playwriting and then was like, oh, I need to go to school, otherwise my parents are gonna like,
For sure.
you know.
Yeah.
So anyways, so writing is my first love, has always been. I feel the deepest and most strongly about it.
Yeah. Where'd you get that? Where'd that come from?
I grew up in a home that wasn't as well resourced, and we had to rely on our imagination a lot as kids. Me and my siblings built worlds together. Toys that were like Power Rangers, but then we turned them into other things, like and character work and voices, and all started then. And I was on the quieter side too as a child, so I got to spend time writing. Like would write creative stories, short stories, all throughout like middle school, and then discovered playwriting in high school. So
Beautiful.
I think that's the lineage of that. Yeah.
And your driving force to continue today.
I think so, because I'm not going to give up just yet, you know? Like I think there are things that are shifting slightly and slowly, and it's like when those doors are just open a crack, like it's worth it. It's worth it to kind of push through, you know? And sort of feels like an example of that,
Definitely.
you know? And my first play, it premiered in 2018 and at a theater, at like Theater Passe Muraille, which is like one of the theaters, you know, that has like full programmed seasons.
Exactly.
And it was a co-production with Buddies. And so it's like the world so far has showed me that there is space for me.
Yeah.
And it feels like a disservice or a dishonor to the communities that I really care about and love if I pack up and go without a real good fight.
For
you
sure.
know?
Wow. Warrior woman.
Yeah. I mean, like without getting so, about it, it does feel like that. Like what is called of us to make work, to make spaces for other artists,
right?
Particularly when they're racialized and queer and trans. Like it's a warrior kind of. You kind of have to have that energy, otherwise.
Make the call.
You know,
you called me. You saw my show in 2018, Body So Fluorescent, and you called me up a year later. And I also just want to paint a picture too, like when we were doing the Riser project, we weren't really friends yet.
Yeah.
And I had this project in the festival and we were meeting with this marketing manager. It was like telling us how to market our plays, and dildos were like a big image for us. And I'll never forget this. And this was the point where I was like, Bilal's my girl. So we have this like publicist who's been in the business for 30 years, and she was like cutting down our marketing strategy. She's like, the dildos are not going to work. You're going to alienate audiences. You know, you have to restructure. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And then Bilal piped up, and you're like, actually, it's right on brand with what they're trying to present. I think it will attract audiences who want to be a part of it. I think it's creative and unique. And I was like, excuse me.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Well, in that on my end of that Zoom call or whatever, I just remember being like that. It was so fresh and exciting. Like your and David's like kind of collaboration creates. It's a party. It's a
Exactly.
come to get fucked kind of
Exactly.
vibe. So get out of here, Granny. Like with this like. It's not going to sell. It's like it's not going to sell to maybe
gatekeepers.
60 plus folks, but it will sell to people who want this.
But do you see that attitude though?
Yeah.
This is what we come up against constantly. And it's not just her, but again, you're in confirmation bias. You know, you have seen what has sold before. Therefore, you're afraid to take chances on anything else. Like that publicist can only recall what has worked in her mind and her career over the last 30 years, that it's impossible to fathom anything outside of it.
Yeah.
Anything different. We're all susceptible to this. Familiarity feels good. We all step back to it.
Yeah.
It's like evolutionary, like protection, survival. Can I expose like the budget for sort of didn't increase in the 3 years, even though it was critically acclaimed, internationally sold, internationally revered, and the money did not reflect that.
You know, money comes when numbers feel correct to the network. And from what I understood over the 3 years, we did not generate the numbers, the audience that would have warranted like a real big, deep kind of investment. I love that the show happened.
Yes.
I think that it will lead to like really exciting things for lots of people.
Yes.
But we've talked about family members, friends of friends who are uncomfortable with trans people. Who, for sure, there are people who see a brown face and will not want to watch. So it's a tough thing, you know. I think another issue, particularly in Canada, is we're not marketing the shows in the way that we need to market them, and finding and generating audiences that will connect to the work, you know? So like already it's hard because there are people who are racist and transphobic in the world, and they will want to watch what they like, what's familiar. But then the resources aren't being put in to really reach other communities for shows like this. I think about like Bria Mack Gets a Life too. Like, did it reach the people that it needed to, you know? Like, and that is on the higher ups, on the networks. It's like, where is the money going? Like, why invest in something and then not show it to every single person that you can? For real.
And do you think that's specifically a Canadian thing?
I felt it on sort of, and in this kind of context. But no, I think that it's, I'm sure it's a global kind of thing. Like, I think if we continue to be perceived as risks, like queer and trans storytellers, BIPOC storytellers as risks,
oh my God,
we will never get the money that a cis, straight, white production will get.
Yeah.
Because they're not risks. Like that's how they're perceived. They're
default.
Default
will be accepted across the board.
Yeah.
The universal. It's the universal story.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's why, and I'll never forget this too, you know, even before any of this came up, I remember sitting in your living room being like, I don't want want to create my own show, you know, like I just want to be cast. And you were like, we cannot lose another creator. You were like, you stop this now. We need your voice. And you definitely shook me out of my like little pauvre, like poor me cycle. Well, because like you said, why do I, you know, we are the risk, so we have to fucking create our own work. You're not going to cast me because I don't look. I don't present as XYZ. So here I am, I'm back. I have to create constantly. I have to go back to square one constantly, which it's beautiful, adventure. What a great opportunity to showcase my voice and my, you know, my words. But it is extra labor that we have to do. But I want to thank you for that kind of gentle wake up call of like, we can't lose your creative voice. And I want to give it. You know, I feel empowered now to give it.
Sick.
Yeah.
That I totally remember that moment, and I you know, the inside of me was like screaming. And it's so real. We can't lose if you're connected to your storyteller. We can, and you're racialized and you're queer and you're trans or you're disabled. Like, we can't lose you. Like, despite all the barriers, and I know it's hard, but we gotta force ourselves in. We got to break it down. You know, like, that's the only way.
But it starts up here.
Yeah.
We have to break everything down up here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in the way.
Yes.
For me, I can speak, you know, about me. The conditioning, the expectation, right? Like, I've had 2 agents tell me that I'm fat, too fat and not pretty to be in North American television. Right. Like, here, let me get you the work that you need so you have the funding to make your own stuff. So even that, like, my own representation is putting those limits on me. My teachers in high school, were like, you can't, you know, it's really hard for Black people, you know, you're not gonna, this was back in the day, sure. What keeps you going? Because I think about quitting at least 3 times a year. Crying. What's the point of this? Let me just go live in the woods alone. Don't look at me. But I do feel a sense of duty for my people, you know? For my community. Yeah. But how do you?
Well, you know, it's so interesting. If you asked me this like a couple years ago, I would have said that whole thing about, you know, rise up together. You know, and yes, community. Seriously, forever, right? Like,
forever.
Genuinely, it definitely drives me. I think the way sort of looks and feels is directly connected to my desire to make sure that I wasn't the only one who got a cool opportunity out of this, you know?
Yeah.
I'm also feeling like stories, writing, acting is a gateway into people's hearts. Like,
absolutely.
People have changed because of sort of. I get messages like
from all over the world.
Really, the thing that I'm seeing more and more is people finding the show after it ended, watching all 3 seasons, and these are folks who are straight, cis, older, for sure, 60 plus, for sure, messaging me being like, this show changed things in me. So that is real. Like, that's not happening, you know? And that's powerful. Like, absolutely. That matters. Like, people shifting their perceptions, their views on other people through art is so real.
Yeah.
So work, okay, like that, it's the combination of those things, you know?
And the shift. I like that word because it is so big, yet I know it implies like something maybe not as huge, like evolving, but it's those minor shifts that's the first step of evolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's beautiful. The growth and the power of art to cause those shifts in people who maybe thought they were done shifting. Or there was no more room to shift beliefs.
Yeah.
That crack, like the cracked door.
Yes.
We have to bust through. We have to flood through.
Yes. And if the door was completely shut, I'd also give up, but it is not. It is, I love talking about the realities of this business because it is painful for sure. And there is the truth that sort of got made.
It got made.
Body So Fluorescent got programmed,
Yes.
and then also taking care of ourselves.
How do you take care of yourself? Please.
Okay.
Tell me. Tell them.
Let the world know my secrets. I mean, look, part of being 25 and not a child when sort of happened is finding my people, or at least starting to, I'm rooted in a lot of really cool, amazing, smart, loving people who also don't care about TV and theater and acting and perform. They're kind of interested in my well-being,
That's right.
And having those people in your life and those relationships being really deep and meaningful is such a game changer. I've been deepening those relationships over these last couple of years, and it really helps with the care thing.
Yeah.
I and my world is bigger than film, TV, theater. My nonprofit stuff is I continue to do it.
Yes.
It didn't stop because sort of happened. I'm running programming for trans folks right now. I did it throughout sort of outside of a theater, TV space, so that feels like care. It feeds me in such a particular way.
Yeah.
And I like to chill. I'm not writing a pitch and then auditioning 5 times in a day. I'm chilling. I'm sleeping, I'm eating.
Sitting.
I'm sitting.
Come on. Which is so important.
It's so important.
Rest is revolutionary. Yeah, because there is so much pressure around producing, creating, putting results, making results, finished product. If you're not working, then you're not fucking hustling. I remember being on a panel with, old bard kind of attitude. Producer, she'd created many films, documentary, and we were talking at York University, and she was telling these kids, right, these young people, that I'm gonna hire the person who's pulling all-nighters, who is doing what they have to do to get work done. And I stopped her. I was like, that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
I said to the kids, if you're dead, you can't create work.
Yeah, literally.
If you're fucking sick, you can't create.
Yeah.
If you're sick and dead, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So you can rest. You don't have to. You can rest and still be a star. You can rest and be a top creator in your field. You can rest and create everything you need to create. You can sit down.
Yes. Yes.
And no shade to what she had to do to get where she is. She's also a racialized person.
Okay,
she's older, so she was trying to make it back in the day when maybe, opportunities were even fewer. So no shade to what she had to do to make shit happen, but we can't perpetuate these ideas.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't want to run myself sick and dead for the sake of what? For what? Creating is cool. Making money is cool.
Yeah.
But me, it's all a distraction from death.
Yeah.
We're all just in a rush to die.
Yeah.
And this is something cool to do. And if it changes lives and minds, I want to be a part of that. I don't mind. I don't mind using those distractions from death.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to plug or tell people about, or?
I'm going back to theater and not closing any doors on anything else. But I like, there were these 2 plays that I shelved to kind of work on, sort of, and we just did a workshop of them at Buddy's and
Nice.
like last month, and it went really well. And I think it's still going to be like 2 years minimum before they kind of, these plays, you know, reach the world. But it was really exciting to be in that space. And again, because I'm a creator on this, like, I can drive this ship how I want, and as slowly or gently as I want. And I loved having that experience. And there's something about the theater that I know that I don't get from film and TV. And
Yeah.
And if y'all, like, you know, just wait 2 years.
Wait 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, nothing anytime soon. But
That's okay.
In 2 years, maybe you'll see
But just,
me.
I think knowing that you're still out there.
Totally.
You're still on the ground.
Totally. Yes, maybe
still
that's worth
creating.
saying. I'm
Yeah.
not going anywhere. I move slowly. That is my truth. I don't want to change that about myself. So
That's beautiful.
2 years or 5 or, you know, like.
But also take that permission too. Take that permission to move as slow as you need.
And also, when you're rushing, you totally compromise the quality of the product. Like,
Absolutely.
If you're just focused on pumping it out, you're gonna miss things, and then you fail. Like, it's it's a cycle, right? Like, rush the BIPOCs, rush the queer and trans people, then you put it out, and then it's
Right.
not kind of good. Then you get badly reviewed. Then you're never gonna work
course.
again. Like.
See, we took a risk. We took a risk and it failed. We rushed that risk. But we're still going to call them risks.
Yeah.
Well, one risk to another. Thank you. I
Thank you.
enjoy your risky work.
Thank you.
Your revolutionary work. You go crush those fucking boundaries. You heard it here. All roads lead to Magic City.
Yes.
Honey.
Yes.
You're coming on the bus.
Yeah. Okay, work.
All Roads Lead to Magic City with Amanda Cordner is produced by Clark Park Films, Monica Ayamuselier, and Stephanie Cowan, and is sponsored by Little Havana Cafe. The show is executive produced by Amanda Cordner and directed by Monica Ayamuselier, and lighting design by Stephen Elphick. Thank you so much for listening. Please join me next week for another episode of All Roads Lead to Magic City. Follow us on all the socials at All Roads Lead to Magic City.